Hey everyone, so I'm back again today. On yesterday, I pretty much spoke about how I began my personal relationship with Christ. And it pretty much started um, due to a series of events that ended up happening. Just as a quick recap, like I said, I've been going to church my whole life. However, when certain things started happening, like me and my mom having to go and live in a shelter, and then I started struggling with different personal issues. Um, I ended up hitting rock bottom, and that is when I called out to God and He answered. And from there, I started to work on building up a relationship with Him, and it's been amazing ever since, to say the least. So, on today, I am going to focus in on one major event that occurred in my life, which is living in a shelter. So today we're going to talk about living in a shelter for a few years. Um, Please keep in mind that everything that I will say, I'm going to say, and I'm going to discuss is coming from a teenage point of view. However, I am also going to be throwing in a few revelations I've had in being an adult. I will differentiate between the two. So I believe we went in the shelter when I was about what, 15, I believe, 15, maybe 16. So it was around about like my sophomore, juniorish year of high school. Um, First off, I would just like to say that to my mom, I definitely love and appreciate all that you have done for me as your daughter. I know you did the best that you could with the situation that we were in, and I love you for it. So thank you. Um, Now to get into the video. Oh, let's see. Like I said, we went into the shelter when I was around about 14, I believe 15, maybe 16 years old. Somewhere in that age range. And when we first went, before we first went, we were staying at one of my aunt's house. My aunt Cecilia, may she rest in peace. Um, we were staying with her and my cousin, and we stayed there for a while. And then one day, my mom told me, she was like, how would you feel if we went to go stay with other people? And I was like, well, what do you mean other people? And she was like, these would be people that we don't know. Now in my little mind, I never assumed that she was talking about a shelter. Um, that was the last thing that came to mind when she asked me that, but I was just like, I mean, hey, we gotta do what we gotta do. So I mean, I guess I can't really have much of a problem with it. Um, the day of, I will never forget. One of our sisters from church dropped us off at the shelter. And when we pulled up in front of the building, I just saw a big brown building. I believe that the shelter we were in is now closed. Um, Aunt Clara's house, was it Miss Clara's house? I believe. She had a shelter close to Ashland, but I believe it is closed down now. However, we pulled up and it was just this really big, huge brown building. Really, it looked somewhat like a big brown mansion. um, but when we got there, then we got out of the car and she hugged the both of us, my mom's friend. She hugged the both of us and she looked at me and she was like, this isn't going to be for long. You won't be here for long at all. Everything is going to be okay. And I said, okay. So we went in there, we got a room, and we began living life as follows. Um, Living in a shelter wasn't the highlight of my life. Now, my mom did make the best out of what the situation that we were in. We would sneak in food. You're not supposed to. We did have curfews. My curfew, of course, was earlier than my mom's. Yes, they gave the adults curfews, so my mom had to be in by, I believe hers was 9 p.m. and mine's was 5 if I was coming in on my own. So after school, I was pretty much expected to just jet straight to the shelter. Um, I never told any friends, except for my two best friends at the time. Um, and we were all going through different life situations, so we would just vent to each other. But at this time, this is really one of those times when I really started to fall off from God. I started to get annoyed with him in a sense, because I felt like there was no way that we should be in this situation. I was mad at my mom, and we've had this conversation plenty of times. So I'm just gonna be real. Um, for parents who have children or teens, and if you're going through a certain type of situation, either one similar to this or it's something else, be open with them. My mom was very open about what was going on. Um, she never kept the truth from me about what was transpiring between her and my dad, or what she was working on doing. She was trying to get into the workforce and so on and so forth. So she was very transparent with me. And at the time, I didn't appreciate it. I didn't want to hear it. And that caused a lot of friction between me and my mom. However, now, with me being an adult, I think back to those conversations and I realize, it was a tough situation. We were in a tough cookie. So, my mom did what she had to do. But however, like I said, back then I was just like, I don't want to hear none of this. I don't want to hear any what I felt as though were excuses at the time. I didn't want to hear any reasoning. I didn't want to hear, oh, everything's going to be okay. I didn't want to hear, oh, God is taking care of us. I didn't want to hear any of that, because I just felt like on the inside, he's not doing anything. We had a lot of different people come in and out of the shelter. When it comes to holidays and stuff like that, then that's when a lot of people, organizations, individuals, they tend to get, a little soft-hearted during holidays. So, they would come and they would have meals for us. They would cook for us. Christmas, they would bring the kids lots of toys and gifts. I know one time we even took a trip to some church or something, and we got Christmas stuff and coats and all of this stuff for free. And a lot of these organizations were Christian organizations. Now, the one thing that I will say, and yeah, like I said, I'm just going to be real. A lot of these organizations who were considered as Christian organizations, or who called themselves Christian organizations, a lot of them, they came in and, they gave encouraging words, this is just a test, we know what you're going through, so on and so forth. However, I realize now that a lot of them didn't give personal testimony. They didn't give personal testimony, and the number one thing that I realized that they failed to always mention is God. In a nutshell. I mean, they'd come in there and they'd have all of this stuff for us, and like I said, they'll give encouraging words, everything's gonna be all right. But no one ever offered prayer unless we were praying over the food. No one ever offered to just go into a corner or have a sit down with you and just chat with you, allow you to vent about what's going on with you. So I didn't really necessarily like that. However, my mom and I, we, like I said, had a lot of friction during this time. It was moreover because of me. Yeah, I became a little bit rebellious. When it was time for curfew and I was out with my friends and I felt like, while I'm at school, I'm free from this stuff, like I'm with my girls, I'm chilling, I'm good. And none of that other stuff that I'm dealing with even matters right now because I'm all right. However, I came to the quick realization once it hit around about 4:45 when my mom started texting me and she's like, "Where are you at? What are you doing? You need to get here." And thanks be to God, I never got locked out of the shelter because they did do that, but they didn't do it to me and my mom. So I'm thankful for that. But I just never wanted to feel like I was voluntarily going. If I'm going back there, it's because you're forcing me to come back there. Okay, I'm not going on my own recognizance. All right, but I mean, hey, like I said, I was a kid, so that was pretty much the cause of a lot of the friction between me and my mom. A lot of the arguments between me and my mom were because I was not trying to hear or listen to what she was saying. I was not trying to receive her speaking over my life and telling me, you know, you're going to come out of this stronger. God is going to mold you into the woman that he needs you to be. I wasn't trying to hear none of that. So that's where a lot of it came from. So like I said, if you have children or teenagers and you're going through a situation and they are just like everything you say, they're just butting heads with you, it's not necessarily that they don't like you or they've fallen out of love with you as their parent. It's just simply they don't really honestly know how to release their emotions. They don't really want to talk because this society tells us, you know, just be quiet, just take it, you know, roll with the punches, keep it in, don't tell anybody because don't nobody care. When it comes to your child, you will always care. And though your child may know that deep on the inside, that little voice in their head telling them, like, just don't say anything, and social media telling them don't say anything, is the cause of a lot of heartbreak. It's the cause of a lot of depression, anxiety, suffering, and it definitely needs to stop. But like I said, just be as transparent with them as you can, and sooner or later they will realize that you were only trying to help them and not hinder them. Well, we were in the shelter for about a good 3, maybe close to 4 years. I ended up graduating high school. And after that, I said I need to get away from everybody. Because while in that shelter, not only did I drift away from my mom, I drifted away from everyone, family included. I did not want to talk to anybody. I felt like, why am I talking to you if you're not trying to help me out of the situation that I'm in? And yes, that was very selfish. I was very selfish as a teenager, and I'm starting to come to the realization of that now. But like I said, I just felt like, you know, if you're not offering a place to stay for me and my mom, if you're not offering some kind of way for us to get out of that place, we don't need to talk. Like, we don't need to talk. Like, just leave me be. So I was that hard-headed teenager that was just like, I gotta get away from all of y'all, and I'm gonna go as far as possible. So I went away to school in Jackson, Mississippi, from Chicago, Illinois, which everyone knows is about a good 15 hours away. Fast drivers, maybe 10. I had all of my stuff packed up. I had a little small trunk party, and I left. And though my family was cheering me on, because they were proud of me, you know, I wasn't going because of I was going because of my family, but I just didn't realize I was going because of my family. But I got out there, and then once I was left there, that's when my mind started to soothe. And I realized my mom is still in that shelter. I got out but she didn't. And though she was very proud of me and she was very ecstatic for me to go, I still hated the thought and I hated myself for a long time because I felt bad that I left her in a situation that we were supposed to be going through together. So I was dealing with that guilt, and soon I had gotten to the point where, out of anger, guilt, frustration, and being upset most of the time, I couldn't really have a long conversation with my mom. Like I had to come up with some reason to get off the phone because when I would hear her voice, then all of those feelings would start to flood into my mind, and I couldn't handle it. Eventually, my mother and I talked, and now we're like best friends. Like, if you see her, you see me. If you see me, you see her. But I am happy that we were able to rekindle our relationship. But yeah, so I was dealing with all of that, and that was just concerning me and my mom. I hadn't even gotten to the feelings of me just coming out of a shelter. While I was still in high school, I told no one except for my two best friends, and they told no one. And I told one of my teachers because I was on the debate team and we were going on a trip and I needed permission to spend the night out. So I had to get a letter from her to the shelter letting them know what was going on. However, other than that, I pretty much I tried to ignore it to the best of my ability. But what I didn't realize until very recently is that me staying in that shelter is a huge part of my testimony. God allowed me and my mom to get through that together. He allowed us to be fully taken care of. We wanted for nothing. And I'm not even just talking about because of the organizations coming and bringing us stuff. We did not want for nothing. We were good. We were in a shelter, but we were good. And so I'm thankful for that. And then the last thing is, in being in there, that really took a huge toll on my self-confidence. I dig into that more in another video, but it did, because already, like I said, I'm gonna dig into it more later, but already I was struggling accepting my complexion. I was struggling accepting my physical features. As you can see, my teeth aren't all that. So I was struggling with that. And then like I was just like, dang, on top of all of that, I live in a shelter? Like, who? And being a teenage girl, what boy is gonna want me? Like, honestly, teenage girls think about boyfriends and teenage boys think about girlfriends and so on and so forth. But that was like a huge, like, that's a whole nother story. But I do hope you all enjoyed this video. I tried to dig into the emotional and mental and spiritual aspects of being in a shelter as best I could. And I mean, hey, like I said, if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask me. I never mind questions. And also feel free to visit our social media. I once again am Maya Ashford. I am the CEO of Hopeful Living, and I am in the midst of sharing my story, and I am praying that God continues to get the glory out of what I'm doing. And I also pray that something was said in this video or the last that may help you or that will encourage you, that even though you're maybe going through a very rough and dark spot in your life, God is still good. He still can take care of you, and he still wants to take care of you. He loves you regardless of what you have going on, and he is there for you, just like he was there for me, and he still is. You all have a great rest of your day. Love you. Bye.